All right, today's topic is solving rational equations, so make sure you've titled your notes. A rational equation is any time that x is in a fraction. When you have a denominator, right, so fractions have numerators the top and denominators the bottom, you can rewrite it by multiplying through all numerators or all terms by it. So when I say denominator, you say divide, right? So that division can be canceled out with multiplication. And that'll make a simpler equation for you to solve. It'll turn it into a linear equation. So our first example, and make sure you're writing in your notes as I'm writing here, is 2 over x plus 5 equals 6 over x squared minus 25. So I have two denominators here. I have x plus 5 and I have x squared minus 25. I'm going to want to make sure I multiply through by both of those. Now I noticed a special pattern here on this denominator. This is difference of squares, and maybe you noticed that too. So anytime I see that pattern, I'm going to want to rewrite it. Remember that I rewrite it by square rooting both terms. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 25 is 5. So I'm leaving the left side alone here, and I'm just changing my denominator. I'm going to factor it into x plus 5, x minus 5. Now the great thing about simplifying this is now part of my denominators are the same, right? They both share this x plus 5. So again, anytime I have a denominator, I'm going to want to multiply through every term by it. So I'll start with my first denominator, the x plus 5. And I'm multiplying it through on both sides. Now I have x plus 5 over x plus 5. Anything over itself is 1. So this cancels out to 1. I also have the 1 over here, x plus 5 over x plus 5, so I can cancel that out as well. I still have one more denominator, x minus 5. I'm going to put that on both sides or to both terms as well. If there was two terms on this side, they would all have to be multiplied by x minus 5, and I'll show you that in our next example. So again, my denominators cancel out. X minus 5 over x minus 5 is 1. And I'm left with 2 times x minus 5 is equal to 6. All that's left on that side. So again, now I have a simple linear equation. I can quickly solve this. I'll distribute my 2x minus 10 equals 6. I'll add 10 on both sides. 2x equals 16. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals 8. This method is canceling out any extraneous solution, so this is kind of a little piece of extra information. Right, if I had something that would make both of my denominators equal to 0, that could be an extraneous solution. So since they both had this x plus 5 in the bottom, if I had x equals negative 5, that would be my extraneous solution, because I would end up with 2 over negative 5 plus 5 equals 6 plus negative 5 plus 5, negative 5 minus 5. So this would turn to 0, this would turn to 0, and it ends up being 2 over 0 equals 6 over 0. Both of those are undefined. Again, this is extraneous. That's a little bit of extra information, but they could ask you to give the extraneous solution. My denominators can never equal 0. All right, we're now doing example 2. So this one is x over 2 minus x minus 5 over 5 equals 4. I want to highlight before I start a common error. Remember, we've learned to simplify rational expressions, and a lot of times students will see this 5 over 5 and think, oh, that could simplify to 1, I can cancel it out. That is not possible. Remember that you cannot cancel just one term of a factor. So this x minus 5 is an entire factor. Unless I had x minus 5 also in my denominator, nothing cancels there. So remember our strategy, I always multiply through by any denominators. So in this case, that is 2. I'm going to multiply it by each term. 2 over 2 is 1. I'm left with x minus 2 times x minus 5 divided by 5 equals 8. I still have a denominator, so I'm going to multiply through by this as well on every term. And now I'm left with 5x. My 5's here cancel out to 1. Minus 2 times x minus 5 equals 8 times 5 equals 40. So now, again, I have a linear equation. I can distribute my negative 2. Another common error, students will forget to distribute this negative, which will cause them to choose the wrong answer. So I'll pick 5x minus 2x. Negative 2 times negative 5 is a positive 10 equals 40. And now I can just combine like terms. 5x minus 2x is 3x plus 10 equals 40. I'll subtract 10 from both sides. 3x equals 30. Divide both sides by 3. And x is equal to 10. If you forgot to distribute that negative, you would end up with a minus 10 here, and that will give you the incorrect answer. If you ended up with 50 divided by 3, that's the mistake you made. All right, at this time you can go ahead and start your classwork. It is in your Google Classroom, and the last 5 minutes of class will take an exit ticket.